Buddy.
Hey, pretty good there. Today is a nice Wednesday, and this
Yeah,
is what
shitty day.
special.
Raining out there.
Yeah, podcast number 28, and we have a special guest coming on later.
We do we? Who's our special guest?
You tell me,
I think it's the favorite council member of who?
Billy Killer?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we're going to have Billy Smith on today, talk a little bit about the city, what's going on, his campaign. He's running against the well-oiled machine. Is it a
yeah.
well-oiled machine anymore, Tim?
Not anymore. All you got to do, just before we came on the podcast, Gil Ethier was calling me.
Oh,
Probably found out I was posting on his own page.
oh, geez. Or he found out that he's down there wrestling with Tom McGrath, who's trying to
Back in
upstage him.
Alicio.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's trying to upstage him with the sign down on the island for Alicio, right?
Yeah, but yeah, well, Gil lost power. He's losing his power down there.
Yeah, look, hey, we had a whole podcast, and after we talked about whether or not the Democratic Party was dying, I got about 300 emails, and it showed a bunch of Halloween cemeteries and said, "I think it's dead already." I should have videoed him so I could send him to Gil so he could
Well,
see him.
well, we got Smitty coming on, and so it would be nice to see other guests come on. But anyway, let's get started right into this thing.
Hey, yeah, let me before we jump in, Timmy, let me just say that if you like the podcast, please take 6 seconds. Maybe it's 5 seconds, maybe it's 4 seconds. Just go to YouTube while you're watching our show, whether you're on your phone or your computer, you click subscribe, you hit the little bell, you get notified when we're up and running for every new show. And it's that easy. You'll help us grow and you'll know when the show's on. So please take a minute to subscribe to our channel. And with no further ado, our friend, Councilman Billy Smith. Hey, Billy.
Hello, guys. How are you?
How you doing, kid?
I've been better, but
You have?
we're
What's the matter?
surviving.
Why? What's the matter?
Well, you get 2 minutes in a car with Paul Vandenberg and shit blows up in your face, but we'll go from there.
Let me talk about that you said that because
I knew
I
that
didn't
was
hear
the
it,
topic
but
today.
I was I was out and my phone started click, 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 click. I said, what the hell's all these things buzzing? Smith's on Vandenberg. Smith's on Vandenberg. He goes, guess what he said? I said, what did he say? They said, hey, Billy, what do you think? The Vandenberg says, do you think Keeler's doing a good job? And you go, yeah, he's doing a good job.
Sarcastically.
So I'm assuming it had to be a sarcastic remark because I know that you and him are not hanging out at the gym and you're not best of friends. And Timmy
Haven't had a beer with him in a while either.
Timmy often says, I wonder if Smitty's having a beer with Killer yet. I hear sirens.
Yeah. So, first off, it's October. It's Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Yeah.
So I'm in my pink.
God bless you.
And honoring my sister out in Boston who's battling the disease. So
She's
first
in
and
our
foremost,
prayers.
let's give credit to those women, and and I believe it's like 15% men that have this breast cancer as well. So let's give credit to those that are fighting this and surviving this. But let's we have my 2-minute conversation with Paul this morning. It was literally in my driveway, and yeah, no, I was being sarcastic. Obviously, as you said, Sean, Keeler and I, we don't agree on a lot of things. But apparently, my voting record has come up to some where 90% of the time, and I believe Timmy has this information as well, that I agree. But it's stuff that you agree on to get the city moving,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff that I don't agree on, that I vote no. So I've been called out on that, and
I seen that on Facebook. Paul Giller, who I'm friends with Paul Giller, and he's a fantastic writer. When he writes his post on Facebook, you would think that he was a professional writer. Sometimes too long for an old guy like me to read them all, but I responded to that post, Billy. And let me tell you what I said, because I also was a legislator for a long time, right? Just because you vote 95% of the time with somebody doesn't necessarily mean that you agree with all of the major issues that have an effect on the city as a whole, or especially if it's, focused on your ward itself, right? So if there's 150 votes a year and 145 times you vote for things like a pass-through legislation, a grant,
Oh,
Yeah, they're governmental
Yeah,
votes,
yeah.
governmental issues. They're not
They're
like community substance, like building
yeah,
parks and paving streets
yeah.
and ambulance and all those things. They're more like, hey, we got to pass a resolution so we can accept a grant. We got to pass a resolution so that we can apply for a grant. Of course, you're going to vote for those things because you're not looking to be an adversarial, uh, fighter with the mayor. You're trying to govern the best that you can, and then you're trying to say, hey, mayor, what about me? What about my district? Just because I don't support you on many issues of substance like the ambulance and cutting firefighters and all the things that you do that I don't agree on doesn't mean you should hate me and then especially attack me and attack my constituents who have gotten shit from this guy in the last
Yeah.
4 years.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine for 1 second that he should get one vote up in that ward. I mean, he's done nothing for the people, but look at I've learned a long time ago people are crazy when it comes to voting, so you never know. But tell us a little bit about what you're doing. So you didn't win the Democratic primary,
I did not
and
win the Democratic
and
primary.
that was purely
I have
because
the,
you had some medical issues you were working through, and you didn't go out and really knock on a lot of doors, right?
correct. But I'm doing that now because I, I'm I'm not giving up, and I'm moving forward with the help of a lot of people,
And
Yeah,
look at it, Billy. And I don't really think
and we're going to get it
I
done.
I don't really think it matters right now if you're on the Democratic Party line because all you have to do is look on down the island. You've got Democratic committee members, okay, under Gil's watch, allowing them to have candidates running on a non-democratic ticket, and they're supporting them too.
yeah.
So they should support you as well. Why didn't they? The message is why don't they support all the incumbents?
Well, that's the thing, and that was my conversation with Mr. Ethier the other day out on J Street, which is one of the worst streets in the city. Uh,
Yeah,
is that
moon base.
I'm an incumbent, and incumbents, should have gotten the nod from the Democratic Party. But again, to me, as you said, the Democratic Party's fallen apart in the city, and there's there's no chief anymore.
Yeah, there's really no leadership,
Let,
and
let me
he'll.
just let me chime in for 1 second.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm not a firm believer that an incumbent should be blessed automatically with the party's endorsement, right? Because the
Hmm.
party's made up of X amount of committeemen who are the
Yeah,
voice of the community itself, right? The community votes if they run for election or not just
yeah.
appointed, but they represent a certain part of the wards, and they're supposed to be the voice of the people that goes back to the party. But here's what I do believe. I do believe unless there was some egregious reason why you wouldn't support the incumbent, um, I don't see a reason why they didn't. And I've had that fight with Gil Ethier my whole life. I don't believe a party who abstains from a primary has any value to me, right? Because once I win the primary, what do I need them for?
Yeah.
What, to make a
Right.
flyer and throw their face on with me and say, hey, we're all together now?
Yeah, well, just the examples right down on the island. Okay, so they're going to endorse, I guess, the winner of the primary, but the same Democratic Party down there is also backing the non-primary winner. So to me, the Democratic Party is in shambles. So what party line you're on doesn't matter anymore,
So
and
No.
that's why.
So when you say the island, are you talking the third ward part of the island or the sixth ward? Because we know where that goes. We know how that went.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on what
Because the
depends
third
on whether
ward,
you
I
turn
don't think
right
they
or
know the
left.
guy running. In the sixth
Right,
ward, they know two people running.
Well, what you got
right.
is Tom McGrath. Tom McGrath is a
Yeah.
city of Cohoes long-term city council member who's voting for a guy on the conservative line. And I've said this to the people who are complaining. Listen, you know what? These third-party lines ain't picking somebody who marches to their tune or to their
Yeah.
mission, right? You can't be a left-wing Democrat and get it and be a conservative at the same time, right? You could be a
Hmm.
middle-of-the-road Democrat who's conservative, but for most part, the third party lines in New York are nothing more than trying to stop anybody else from running against you. So you take the line. Keeler did it. Nobody's complaining about him.
Can be
Gil's
one.
doing it.
I did it.
November 7th, you'll see that everybody has one. My opponent has
Everybody
two
does
other
it.
Yeah,
lines. I have
yeah.
one. So,
When I won my
but I'm
first
the bad
election,
guy.
I didn't even have the Democratic line. I won on all third party
Yeah.
minor party lines.
Hmm.
So the bottom line is not every minor party line aligns with your true beliefs, but they align with your political needs, and that's why
Yes,
you take them,
and that's
right?
the best way to say that.
Yes, it's the truth, and that's you take them for the political purpose and not necessarily for the reasons that the party outlines its mission. So I don't believe for one second there's anything wrong with taking these party lines because you're trying to protect yourself from and insulate yourself from anybody running. And
Hmm.
so, you're gonna, Cohoes has always been a real strong Democratic city, but I did it. I won as a non-Democrat. I won as an independent. I don't know how many other people did it other than me and maybe the Citizens Party, but it can be done.
Yep.
And the reality is, this is a small city, Timmy, right?
Yeah,
So the
yeah.
people that are voting for you in a small city are voting for you because they like you. Let's be honest. Let's not bullshit each other. This isn't a place like New York City where there's millions and millions of people and you got to sell yourself through your flyers and your debates and maybe your life's work and you got to convince strangers to vote for you. That's not how it works in the city, right, Billy? I mean, you lived in that ward. People know you and they're going to either vote for you or they're not,
Right.
regardless of what their party affiliation is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, and at the end of the day, you're right, Sean. It doesn't matter if you have a D or an R or an I at the end of the in the parentheses at the end of your name. It's what you believe in and what you stand for. And I
Yeah.
believe over the last, not even the last 8 years, but my 5 years on the school board, that I've done what the residents, not only in the first ward but the city, have asked me to do, and that's be a voice.
Yeah.
And
And,
I can
right.
continue to be that voice.
Right, and it's also true, Billy, that you get phone calls from other wards, such as the second ward, asking you to do things for them in their ward because that council member, that's Don Russell, doesn't do a damn. And thank God he ain't running again, but he doesn't do anything to help anybody. So what do they got to do? They got to turn to another council member.
and
I had
and
to do it
and
here
that's
too.
yep, and that's, as I said, is it's not just, I'm battling for the first ward. I'm battling for the residents
For
of the city,
the city as a
to,
whole.
get this, to get the things done right, or at least have a voice. And I
Like,
believe I've been that, not only for the 8 years I've been a councilman, but 5 years, previously as a
Oh boy.
everybody knows politics is a dirty, slimy business. Nobody knows
yeah.
better than me, believe me. Many people who I thought would be in my corner were slime balls trying to screw me over just to get brownie points for themselves, right? But here's a funny thing. Billy Smith is a strong, opinionated, vocal guy, not afraid to speak, right? And I guarantee you, many of the people who are complaining about Billy Smith being in battles with the mayor have gone to Billy and asked him to take the battle on because they didn't
Yeah,
want to do it, including council members. I know how it
Exactly.
goes. Listen, it's no different than when I was a teenager, right? We'd be out to the bar drinking, and my buddy'd start to fight, and they'd start yelling my name to help stick up for them, right? That's how it works. Politics is no different. You got guys who want to fight the mayor because they know what he's doing is wrong, and they'll be like, "Hey, Bill, you take the lead,"
Yeah.
because they're cowards and they have no kahunas, and so
It's
you
like,
well,
take.
look at
somebody takes the snowballs and I'll throw them,
I
basically.
well,
That's
well,
politics.
look at the, although you support probably 90, 95% of the things that go on, what happens, Bill, if you're not a 100% yes man, you get that target on your back. They're going to get work to get you an opponent or primary you or get somebody to run against you. And who carries the water? Gil Ethier. Okay, he gets his marching orders. I need to put a target on that back. Now, Gil stand back and say, "Oh, I got nothing to do with the
Yeah.
local elections." Look at the photos of him and Keeler with Alicio down on the island. Yet he's got nothing to do. He's got his hands all over Alicio. So anyway, that's what goes on, and party doesn't matter. And I wish you good luck in this election. You got to
Well,
work for it.
I'm working for it, and whatever happens, happens. But I think the main focus today is this budget that the council is going to be faced with in the next
So
couple of weeks.
let's talk about that, Billy.
Yeah.
So I think that this guy Keeler has some set of
Balls.
balls to put himself in for a 27% raise. If that's not a spit in the face of everybody in this city who's struggling just to pay their bills,
Yeah.
$20,000 raise, 21,000. Who the hell wouldn't beg? Who wouldn't beg their boss to get a $20,000 raise? Every single person who works, including me and you, and we all would love a 20. That's $400 a week. For some people, that's their full salary.
Yep.
And this guy, tell me what he's
And-
done so great. Was it the ambulance that he screwed up? It's the $1 million we have to pay. It's the line saying that, the city's got a $6 million a fund balance when he's stealing the fund balance because they don't have enough income to pay
That's
their
what they did.
expenses because he's blowing money like it's crazy. Is it because he's telling you that the light bulbs are saving you money when you're losing, 150, 200,000 a year?
Well,
Tell me what he's did to earn 27% because I can't figure it out for the life of me.
Well, we got a floating thing on the reservoir apparently.
Yeah, that ought to work good. We'll probably be drinking some kind
Until
of
they all go bad.
botulism water.
And we're not
Well-
going to see a savings. But here's what's happening is in my belief. I could be wrong, and you guys can disagree with me. For the last 12 years, maybe longer, we haven't had a tax increase in this city, where the school board goes up every year and people enjoy that. I'm a believer that I don't want to keep kicking the can down the road, and that's what we're doing under these budgets. So, last year was a negative. We gave people back $1.50 a month in their taxes. This year we're going zero because we're offsetting it with $1 million from the reserve fund.
We talked about.
Yeah, you're stealing the savings.
We
fund.
need I hate to say it, but 1%, 2%. For the taxpayers, and I'm not a believer in raising taxes, but again, I'm a believer in the future. And the future is not going to fall in the back of my son or my grandkids going down the road. And this is what's happening. Eventually, we're going to end up like Troy, where there's a 14% tax increase in 1 year when they have a major water break.
We talked about that, Billy. We laid it out. I shared with everybody the difference between a true 0% tax increase and a political tax increase. A true tax increase is somebody who comes under budget, right? Is able to put more money into their savings account, doesn't
rainy
have to
day.
raise taxes because they've gone under budget, they put money in their savings account, and they have a balanced budget, which means for every dollar we come in, we're only spending that same dollar going out.
Right.
This guy is not doing this. This guy is spending money like he's a drunken sailor, and he's not got enough money coming in, so he's taking it out of his savings account. And when the savings account goes dry, cities go bankrupt. And everybody knows he's doing it, except for the people who are writing the stories in the newspaper, because he's the guy that gets away with anything. You can go get DPW to work on your lawn and not get in trouble, where people went to jail for that. Right? Nothing happens to him. He's got an acre and a half land that he divides up. He doesn't put in sewer the right way. He doesn't put in drainage the right way. And the state says, oh, he divided it up, so it really isn't 2 acres or some bullshit story like that. So he's untouchable because of the job that he had. But eventually, he will bankrupt the city, or he'll put the city in such a bad way. So let me give you some advice. You don't always have to raise taxes. Sometimes you just got to cut the freaking spending. And $1 million for an ambulance is something a moron would do, not somebody who's fiscally responsible, that has any common sense and any governmental experience and knows how to build relations with a couple people so that you could get an ambulance in here for free or a quarter of that or get it into the fire department. But this guy is such a pompous bastard that he won't let the fire department win. He'd rather spend here $12 million to have an ambulance.
I think we had a meeting last week. Not a meeting, but 3 council members in a room with the mayor and
A lecture.
and the folks from Ambulance and they want a $10 million or 10-year plan, and I'm like, well, no, because I'm not going to be alive in 10 years.
Yes, you'll be alive. You just won't be working for the
Now we're
city.
looking at 5 years, and so on and so forth. But we had a committee whether that was politically motivated or not, and Adam Biggs was the chair of that, and I think Adam has seen has seen the light on what this administration has done to him. That they spent 3 months and they presented a a, a plan, and the mayor did not ask one question at that meeting. Rainbow Demel spent 15 minutes explaining what happened, and the mayor didn't have any questions or anything. So, and I was part of that committee, and I said, guys, we're just sitting here and we're spinning wheels because there's no way this mayor is going to agree with anything we do here. We can present it, we can have a resolution to present and everything else, but at the end of the day, his mind is set to go with this ambulance service, and I don't know what the end result of him getting this service coming in, but it's wrong. And yeah, we're not in the business to make money. And the firefighters, we can do it. I believe they can do it. It's going to take time. Whether we start with obviously with BLS and then work our way to ALS, but there's got to be training and hiring firefighters. A 3-year plan is not a bad deal with our firefighters. We're going to lose money regardless. But I'd rather lose money with the people I know, with my neighbor who's a firefighter, than somebody I don't know.
Yeah, but you're not losing money. You're providing a service. Do you lose money when Lansing's pool opens? Right?
Yeah,
Do you lose
yeah, no,
money?
you're right. I shouldn't have
They
said it
lose
that way.
money when they spend X amount of dollars to beautify a park.
Yeah,
Do you lose money when the music hall's operating? No, these are services that make a city great. The whole point of a city is to build a utopia where people can come and live and love and have a great life and be safe and have good schools. I'm going to tell you something. A year before I left office, we were in magazines.
we
We
were.
were in beautification magazines. We were rated the top 3 city for the first time in a 150-year history of the city. We made it to top 3. We were the fastest growing city, the safest city. And in 2.5 years, this buffoon has blown the whole thing.
Hmm.
Great ape. I tell you, he walks
Yeah.
around with his head down and his knuckles dragging on the ground because he's got so much money in his pockets for his 27% raise. He doesn't care about you. He don't care about the city. He's never even down there. People call me all the time. The guy's never at work. I said, no shit. He's chopping wood up on his street.
Yeah.
I see him
I
there
don't
every
think he knows
day.
where Main Street is.
Exactly. So the bottom line is he's a vindictive guy. He really is.
That is
Oh,
that.
that's well said.
Yeah,
Well
he's
said. Yep.
vindictive guy. So the fire department,
Ask right. Ask
not only will they not get an
Al
ambulance,
Paul.
not only will he not get an ambulance, they'll cut him down to 4 guys. Watch. Al Paul didn't like something. He made a comment. The mayor ends up going after him, suspending him. Got guys that never
20
been in
days.
trouble in their life that he suspended them for 30 and 40 days. The guy's a freaking moron.
Hmm.
The guy doesn't have no compassion for you. The only compassion that he's got is this. I'll take $20,000 raise for myself. I'll give my daughter a $6,000-$7,000 raise, even though I only gave her $5,000 a year ago.
Yep.
Now she makes $62,000 or $64,000, the highest secretary in the freaking country.
64,000 for the police chief secretary.
And
In the
40 for
meantime, the
his.
mayor, 41,000 for the mayor's secretary.
Yeah,
It's
and,
just-
and 95,000. If you're listening to this show, 99. When I became the mayor, I took a 35,000 pay cut to come here and be the mayor.
Mhm.
I took a $35,000
Yeah.
pay cut because I wanted to win my city back and make it the best city it could. This guy's
Not,
trying to
not
think.
according to the council member in the third ward when he told me last night, Tuesday night, that well, you got to remember, Sean took a pay raise when he became council. I'm like, I'm sorry, Mr. Councilman,
You're wrong, like always, dope.
Yeah,
You
Chris
you
Briggs.
suck. You breathe in too many shit fumes out of those.
Chris Briggs.
Yeah,
He's no clue.
the
And
guy's he's a
finances is
dope.
his thing. Yeah, he is.
The
It
only
really is.
the only thing that Chris Briggs ever did when he became the temporary mayor was to give the killer's daughter a $5,000 raise because he's a
That's right.
dope.
And
Hey,
he said,
Chris, yes. Hey, Chris, yes. Give them, yes. He doesn't even know what the hell he is half the time.
and he
Okay.
calls
The only other-
calls Randy delusional.
Yeah, and the only other thing that he ever did good was he went behind Holly Brown's back, who was
Uh,
making the music hall one of the greatest in the capital
Yes.
region. He went around her back to get rid of her.
Yeah.
After
That's
he
the only
praised
two.
her.
Yeah, the only two things that guy's ever done is he's raised taxes every place he's been. He gave the mayor's daughter a huge raise,
And
and
he
he
went
got rid of
behind,
Holly Brown.
right, and he went behind Randy's back with some deal with
Well,
that
he's trying to
property
cut
down
deals.
there,
Yeah,
down there. You know,
him and
he's
Steve Napier, him and
him
Fat
and
Ass were
Napier.
trying to cut deals to get campaign money.
Yeah, and they did. Napier grabbed 7 grand out of that deal. Okay.
Welcome to politics, people. That's what it is, man. Billy Smith, look, there's no doubt you're getting you got the raw deal. I don't know the kid who's running. Seems like a nice kid. I don't think I really met him, but he doesn't belong there. You belong there, and anybody who watches this show should be voting for you because in the end of the day, if Keeler's got all his puppets in place, they'll be bankrupt. Keeler will walk out with $150,000 a year pension, and they'll be trying to figure out how not to lose their house because they got to come up with $300, $400, $500 more a month.
And that's the other thing, is, you wanna increase your salary by 20,000 plus dollars a year. You're already getting a pension from the state.
100 grand.
Ninety-seven
What's
thousand.
what's the
97.
FD what's he going to go out on? Is he
Well, he
going to?
doesn't get another pension, so he's probably filling up his 401k.
All
He's
right.
doing, the bottom line is, the guy is shitty of mayor as he is, as poor of a job as he's done. He still deserves a 2-3% raise like everybody else.
Yeah,
Things cost more money.
we're
He's
not
doing
getting
a job. Right.
Yeah.
But he doesn't deserve a 27% raise. And the people of Cohoes should be pissed off.
To
They
no
really
end. Yeah.
should. They should say,
Look, Sean, this raise that he's looking at, $21,190, is more than the most people who are on Social Security get a year.
well, of course.
That raise alone, okay?
I know many of the firemen who retired 10 years before me don't get
Yeah.
that much in
Yeah.
their pension.
It's just greed, and that's all it is. It's just plain greed and living in his own
If
bubble.
this
Okay.
council had any respect for the community for which they represent, they would
Right.
say, Mr. Mayor, you only gave out 2% to the unions because you said that's a fair raise. Take a 2% this year, next year, the following year, and the following year. That's 8%. And go retire and live happily ever after or run again, and you'll have an 8% raise in your salary.
Hey,
That's
I
what he
wanted to
should do.
touch on, you're right, and I wanted to touch something there. McCarthy is quoted in the Times Union
Yeah.
as saying, "Oh, the finance committee has got to do something." McCarthy's on the board of managers. He already voted to approve this
Listen,
27% for Killer.
I'm
Okay,
not I'm not a
but
fan of Billy McCarthy.
yeah, but here's the thing. Okay, he painted himself in the corner, so the next budget meeting or when they got to vote on him, he can't come back and say no after he said yes.
Billy McCarthy is a snake. That that a lot of people think he's a good guy. I once thought he was a good guy. Then
Well,
I found out what he really was.
yeah.
He's a dodo bird who does what he's told. I don't think he's that smart. I don't think he even knows how to turn his iPad on, and I think it was upside down when the one time he was pointing to his iPad.
Well, I know he
telling
can't count to five, but he doesn't know what a supermajority
Well,
vote of the
and then
council
he's
is.
quoted
He
in
can't
the
count to five.
Times Useless as being he's expected to be the only council member back.
Yeah,
Now,
so basically you guys all
when
lost.
I asked him that question, he says, "Well, no, they were supposed to say I was the only one that ran unopposed." So,
Right.
yeah, okay,
Right.
Bill, thank you, but no, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they only ran unopposed in a lot of these districts because they did the dirty deed and they redistrict people out of their own
Yeah.
community.
They
And
knocked several got people out.
yeah, so people that lived in their district their whole lives couldn't vote or couldn't run because they redistricted them out. If you don't think that was a Democratic Party, a Gil Ethier, a
Yeah.
Bill McCarthy, a Bill Keeler,
Yeah.
if you don't think that was a deal by all of them, you are foolish. Because I know how the deal works. I did
Right.
it for the county.
And
I
this
know who's
wasn't.
involved. I know who
I
sticks
don't.
their finger in it.
Mhm.
It's a dirty deal.
Yeah, it is. And look, I don't think Killer is bright enough to do it on his own.
He's not bright enough to do it on his own, but he's bright enough to do what he's told because he's always
Yeah,
just doing what he's told.
yeah, that's it.
Because if he was
That's
doing
it.
what he's told, he wouldn't be having an ambulance for 10 years,
Hmm.
right? If he was doing it on
Yeah,
his own.
yeah.
Hmm.
It's insane. It's premature. Plus, they're tying the hands of an incoming administration who should have a say on this.
And I don't, I once heard, and I don't know that it's fact or fiction. I once heard that the longest contract you can have is the 4 years for which you're in office. Now,
Hmm.
I don't know if that's true, but somebody, if you ask Kremer, he'll tell you no if they tell him to tell you no or yes. I
Yep.
remember
Yeah.
when Kremer and me had a disagreement, and I thought it was time to part ways. Um,
Well,
so,
Kremer is the city corporation
right.
counsel.
So,
Okay, the city lawyer for our viewers. If
yeah.
you don't know who he is,
I was getting ready to part ways with him. I thought that it was time. And while I'm sitting up in his office having a conversation with him, Chris Briggs is coming up with a bottle of whiskey and giving him a gift of a bottle of whiskey at City Hall
wow.
because he probably helped him get rid of Holly Brown.
Yeah.
That's the kind of people they are. So the guy's bringing whiskey into the City Hall to give it to the Corporation Council as a gift because he felt bad that I was going to fire him. Hey, in the end, he
Oh,
fired me.
yeah.
but the guy, you got to have people that you trust in this business because they're all snakes. And the bottom line is, if you love your community and you want to give it your heart and soul, you will be in a lot of fights with a lot of politicians who are only looking out for their own best interest, and then they will gang up on you and they will kill you. And
Agreed.
and that's what they
Unless
do. That's what they did
unless
to
you
me.
right, unless you vote 100%. But anyway,
But
Yeah.
that's what they did to
yeah,
me. That's what they're doing to Billy Smith. Not to the extent they did to me, but they're doing
yeah,
it to Billy Smith.
yeah.
And I think it's a badge of honor. Love your community more than you love anything else. Love the people, even that don't love you. Do the best you can to make sure that the people living in your district have the best life. And you can walk out of the door every day of City Hall with your head up, held up high. Or you can be the guy who's a puppet, the guy that's ruining the city, the guy that's being told how to do things, the guy that doesn't have the courage to stand up for his own convictions. And then you could walk with your knuckles dragging across the ground and your face looking down because you don't have the courage to look up, right? Where is everybody today? Black Lives Matter. We marched alongside of them, didn't we? We marched
Hmm.
right down the middle of the city with them, didn't we? And
Right. And
today,
no vets parade. No
and
parade for
today
vets.
they're on TV supporting the Palestine and showing the parachute that was coming down of the monsters that murdered and killed and cut up 40 little babies.
Yep.
Do you hear
Hmm.
any of them coming out now saying, hey, we don't support Black Lives Matter? This organization doesn't stand for what we stand for. No, they say nothing. Nothing.
Right. But Keeler marched right through the
He marched
streets of
with them.
Cohoes with him.
He should be
You know?
standing up today as the mayor of the city saying, I denounce them. I do not
Yeah.
support anything they believe. 40 little babies chopped up by a bunch of monsters. And Black
Yeah.
Lives Matter is got a sign up saying we
Killing
support them,
Americans.
And
right?
Billy, how is it just the mayor's decision only to cancel the vets parade on a bright sunny day? I mean, don't the council have any kind of
No.
say on things like
Listen,
that? It's just
I've been an advocate for parades since I've been on the council and previously. I've always wanted a parade on Christmas Eve.
Christmas. Oh my God, he's been asking. He asked me that for four
yeah.
years.
Yeah, I've never had that holiday parade, but we have the tree lighting, which doesn't work.
Yeah, they
So,
didn't do a practice play. It was like what was it? Like what was that
They
show where
plugged
they
it in
plugged?
and plugged it in and only the lower
Yeah,
half
the
was
other
on.
hair got electrocuted.
Right.
They plugged archery and it didn't turn
yeah.
on.
No, I mean at the end of the day, whether I win, lose, or draw come November 7th, I spent 13 years, in political atmosphere. I've spent over 30 years in the softball world, where I'm the commissioner now over 15 counties. So I've had a good run. I plan on keeping my run going, and I'm working hard to get that third party line, as people hate to say it, but we'll see what
Bottom line is,
at the end
bottom
of
line
the day,
is,
I'm
you're
gonna
on the
I'm
ballot.
gonna sleep good at night.
Listen, if you
Yeah.
lose, Start a podcast and have a good time, because then there's no more pressure. You say what you want, you do what you want.
Yep.
Hey, listen, this may have sounded like the Beat Up the Billy Keeler podcast, and you know why it sounded like that? Because it was, and it was because he deserves it, and
And it's
because he's a
justified.
bully, and he thinks he can pick on people like Billy Smith, and he thinks he can pick on them by not doing one thing for the people in the first ward, not so they get mad at him, but because they want to blame Billy, when Billy, in fact, fought his ass off for every one of you. So I hope you know that. I hope you watch this show and realize that Billy Smith is a good man. I've had my arguments with him. I had my fights with him. He voted for me once, voted against me once. That's the way it goes. But at the end of the day, I still think he's a good man. I think he sticks up for the people. And if you don't vote for him, I think you're making a terrible mistake. So, Billy, I know I wish you well. Um, and
And
Thank
Bill,
you.
you're the only candidate running that called us and said you want to come on the podcast. So thank
yeah,
you.
yeah, and
Not
I
thank. I mean,
appreciate it.
not. I mean, I didn't want to cut it off, but thanks for having me. I mean, we can go on.
Well, hey, let's just go on for a couple more minutes, because we have other topics that we want to talk about, and I don't know, maybe we won't get them in this podcast. But what about the firefighters running the ambulance? Do you really think that it's that difficult? Because I believe that you can do it in 1 year. I don't
Here's
believe it
what I
takes 2 years.
say. Here's what I want to say in this, Sean. Let me just quickly jump in, okay? Cohoes is really unique in one way. We have Otto Matson, who's on the state faculty that knows everything about this stuff, everything, right? And we didn't even, as a council or as a group, go to him and say, how can we make this work? They froze him out, and that's because of politics and no other reason than politics. And yet, this is where we are today on that thing. Billy,
Yeah.
what do you think about that?
I'm,
Why didn't we get a hold of Otto? And I also asked Adam to reach on out to Otto. I don't know if he ever did.
I don't think he has, and I don't think he ever did. But at the end of the day, the task force, put up put projections in place, where, yeah, again, as I stated earlier, we can start with basic life um, services, and then graduate from there, um, with
Build up.
over a
Yeah, I
year, with
agree.
over 2 years, because we do have firefighters now that are paramedics that can do it. But it's going to take time. Is a year safe to say? Probably.
95% of your calls are BLS. Well, first of all, probably 90% of your calls are BS, which are just bullshit calls. I
You know,
was there
that
for
I
26
have a
years.
headache and everything like
Right.
that.
Then there's a whole, then the next level of calls are BLS, and very small amount of ALS. But one good thing about Cohoes is that we're close to hospitals. So
Mhm.
running a BLS ambulance, maybe right now you run the BLS ambulance and you pay for ALS support, which would be a fraction of the cost, not even remotely close to what they're going to pay for this ambulance. And I think it'd still generate revenue. But I'll be interested in to see how this whole ambulance vote goes. Tell us about the budget. Do you think the budget's going to pass with his big raises and his daughter's raises?
Well, from what I'm hearing, that there's the majority of the council is not in favor of this, and when I say that, you know, um, it's obviously the three guys that got an opponent. Chris Briggs is not running again, so I don't think he really cares. Obviously, Russell doesn't care whether what his vote says, and McCarthy's going to, do what he's going to do.
You already voted yes in the
So
board of managers.
I don't think it passes. Now the question is if it's 3-3, obviously the mayor breaks the tie, so he votes himself a pay raise, and his
No,
family gets a
he
pay
put
raise.
it in himself.
So the question lies is it, if it's 3-2 and a council member abstains from a vote, so it's 3-1, does it still pass?
No,
I don't think so.
I think it does,
Everybody
because
will have a
no,
different
I
spin on it.
disagree.
I don't disagree, because somebody's abstention doesn't take them off their. An abstention, you don't vote, but you're still there. So the body has to have a majority of the people who
That's
vote.
not true. That's
Yes, it
not
is
true.
true. I've
No, it's
been
not.
involved a lot longer than you. I'm telling you,
Well,
it's true.
I'm
If
telling you,
if the
it's
guy
not
never
true.
votes a day in his life, do you think nothing ever passes?
It's not true.
It is true. If you don't
So
vote,
true.
the majority becomes the people left on the council.
No.
I
Well,
don't, I don't know.
You could take Timmy's 100 years in politics or you could take my true politics.
But
Because if
I
that
think
was the
at the end of the
case,
day, it's going to be,
Ki-
it's going to be,
Killer abstained.
it's going to be a 3-3, or it's not going to pass. And
You can't pass. You can't pass a budget with 3 votes.
well, no, he's
And
gonna make his own.
no,
He's
he'll
gonna
vote.
make
He'll
his
be
own pay
for.
raise.
No, because the
He'll
rule says no. He can't vote because it wouldn't be a tie.
So if the council's
No,
three
but if it's
three,
3-2, he already wins. He doesn't need to vote.
yeah,
No, he
What's
doesn't.
wrong with you guys?
Nothing wrong with me.
You know how to do
He-
math? Here,
Yeah, I do.
3 people, and then one of them says, I'm going to abstain. So it goes like that. And now you have 3 people here. So the budget passes 3-2.
No, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it
I
does.
I don't think it's gonna get down to that. I really,
Yeah,
I
we'll
Why don't you
see.
tell us how it works,
hopefully
Tim?
hopefully the,
I did. I did.
hopefully
I
the
said
majority of this
the
council.
person doesn't vote. He doesn't abstain. He votes present, which is not
There's no
neither
such
a
thing as
yes
this is
or a
not
no.
Congress. You don't vote president. And here you say I'm abstaining from the vote. So now if
Did
there's
you know
6
that
of you,
Keeler? Wait a minute. Did you know that Keeler abstained from the vote in
yes, on the board of
managers?
managers. But here's
So
the
his
funny
vote
part.
doesn't count.
So he goes over to Mike DeRoche and says, "Put me in for 27% raise."
Right.
Yes, boss. And then he goes, "I'm going to abstain from the vote." No
Which
shit, but
means
how
he
did they get
doesn't-
in there in the first place?
He doesn't want
I
the money.
I think at the end of the day, I don't see this passing, and I think
Yeah.
stronger heads will prevail. Where they're gonna go back to the table.
Well, go down to Donnie Magoo's and buy some food and get a beer and say, "Look, I'm going to spend some money in here. I want you to vote. I want you to vote down the
Yeah,
budget."
no, I'm not. I haven't stepped in that joint in any of his joints in many years because
Well,
that'd be just
once in a while, you got to
me.
step
But
in. Once in a
I
while,
know.
I'm just going
I
to tell
know.
you that I think I don't. I know there's supposedly 3 votes no. What happens to the other 3, I don't know, but
It's a death
it
sentence
comes
for
down to it,
Alicio.
if the mayor's going to have his, you know,
yeah, I think
he's trying to-
Alicio's in a tough spot because I think, he's trying to battle for a win. If he goes and votes for a 27% raise,
well,
knows
he's he's
done.
already hurt himself by the redistricting. So
yeah,
Yeah.
but just like you, he's still in the fight, right? A puncher's still in the fight.
And he,
So he's still
Yeah.
in the fight. He's got Democrats who are going to support him. He's a guy that's well liked. I like him. I don't think he's a bad guy. The bottom line is he's still in the fight. So now if he goes and votes to give Keeler a 27% raise, you might as well just take your mouthpiece out, sit down in your chair, and throw in the towel. No
Yeah.
mas. No
well,
mas.
So, Bill-
that's I think that's the 3. You know, Justin, Adam, and myself will be no votes. I can't speak for them, but I'm assuming that's the way it go, and we'll see what happens with the other 3.
So, Billy, I want to tell you about the precedent of this council, though. Okay, let me take you back 3 years. Okay, when there was a vote for the ethics board, which required supermajority, 5 votes. What happened is the measure was voted on, and it was 3 votes in favor, 2 votes against, and 1 abstained. Okay, so the tally eventually was 3-2, and the measure didn't pass. Okay, so they had to do a new vote. Isn't that true?
That is true.
So,
Just because they're a bunch of morons that don't know how to.
Right. So when they abstained and it didn't count for anything, it was okay on a non-budget vote. But if it's a budget vote, that abstain that doesn't mean anything. So we'll see what happens.
I think that they probably, abstain just means the guy didn't vote. He's not taking a vote. So if the thing says that you need to have a majority of the vote, and that guy doesn't vote, what's the majority of 5? 3. So just because they were stupid and you convinced them to be stupider doesn't
But
mean
is
shit.
right? But is three
A
yes
majority of
and
6.
is 3 yes and 2 no's? Is that a tie?
If
You're
you have,
saying
if you have
it's a
5
tie, but
people,
it's not- no.
if you have 5
You
people
can't
that
have a
vote,
tie with an odd number.
who said there's a tie? I don't know what you're talking about.
Anyway,
My thing is that if there's a vote has to be based on 6 people.
He doesn't understand what you're saying because he's got these things are too tight. If Billy abstains, There'll
Very
be
well.
3 votes yes, 2 votes no. So the thing passes.
It doesn't.
Whack them things a couple times. Hear
doesn't.
me again.
It
If
doesn't.
Billy abstains, the vote passes 3-2.
It does not. It does not.
I'll
Hey
let you guys
Billy,
hash it out.
hey Billy, look at we're gonna. It's time that we kind of wrap this up, but I'll tell you what happened back in the 1960s. 4-2, the budget, okay, was approved by 4 Democrats against 2 citizen parties. It went to the New York State Supreme Court, and the courts ruled, sorry guys, 4 votes is not 2/3, and the court case was ruled in favor of the 2 that lost.
In 1960,
So
women
numbers
couldn't
are
vote either, right? Things have changed, my friend. Get your head out of your ass. 1960. The question of the budget is:
I'm
does it
right.
require a majority vote? Is it
Yeah,
does it
you can't-
require a majority? So a
Majority
majority
of
of
6 is 4.
5 is 3
No,
to 2.
they're not 5 there. There's 6 there. Bodies in the room. Anyway, it was a good conversation.
I can see why people want to run them over. I can see
Me?
why people want to run them over.
I don't walk by my windows at night. I could be taken out.
I don't believe when you abstain that simply means I am voting.
It means that you have you're not voting yes or no, but that doesn't mean you're not in the room. Okay, that's what it means.
Okay.
So,
Well, I guess I'll have to bet you $5 you're wrong.
okay, we'll see what happens. Let's
Because you've been wrong about
Get
every
Brian
other
Kremer
thing.
on the job.
Yeah.
But
Okay,
at the end of
Kremer.
the day,
All
I
the
really-
listeners
I
out
really-
there, who's right on this, Sean, or who's right on this,
All the
Tim?
listeners out there, it'd be the first time Timmy's right on anything.
At the end of the day, I think, out of the 6
I
members
don't
of
know
the
the answer,
council,
truthfully.
he's, it's going to pass. And then we'll go from there at the end of the day. But right now, I believe it's 3 no's to 3 whatevers, and hopefully the 3 whatevers, their heads will come together.
I really don't know what the answer would be to that. I really don't. If you abstain, I mean, I would have to read the charter, but if you abstain and it requires, a supermajority, then you don't have a supermajority because that guy abstained. I think
That's
I agree
what
with
happened with the ethics board vote.
I think I agree with
That's
that.
all I'm saying.
But
So,
I don't really know. I'm just
and Chris
just trying to
Briggs
wind him
actually,
up.
right. Chris Briggs did actually abstain, and it did affect the outcome because Billy McCarthy the next month, right? Remember this? He tried to change the voting rules to only 4 because they didn't have enough with 3-2.
So
And that happened.
Billy, I
Anyway.
just at times like to whine Timmy's cuckoo clock, right?
Oh, he got me
because
good,
I know how upset he is because I listened to it for a freaking year. How the majority abstention, this that. So I just figured I'd get him all fired up, and
he did.
I got him fired up. Look at he's gonna slam his headphones.
I'm
in like
so
3
mad.
minutes. So hey,
anyways, at the end of the day, I assume there's 3 no's right now, and what Chris Briggs and Russell and McCarthy do is on their own. But
Well, if Chris
the
Briggs
3 of us
has
that are
any
trying
moral
to survive
standards
this
left,
are going to do the right thing.
right. If Chris
Well, hey,
Briggs
listen.
has any moral or Russell, if they have any moral standards, or even McCarthy, they have any moral standards.
Well, scratch
ask
that one.
themselves the last time anybody in the city got a 27% raise, they would set a new precedent in the city doing so. Anyway, thank you.
Hey, Billy,
Yes.
Good luck.
it's good to see you. Hey,
Good
Timmy.
to be seen.
I'm going to abstain on this next podcast, and I'm going to hit the hell out of here. So
Podcast number 27.
it was good to see you guys.
Take care.
God bless.
Thanks for having me.
Yep, bye.